Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I can't thank you enough for sticking with me through every chapter of this emotional journey. Today, we continue the gripping saga of Tu Tien and CEO Jack, a story of survival, love, and an unwavering will to keep going. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming content. If you remember from the last episode, after leaving her hiding spot to escape the bandits and find her way back to safety, Tu Tien had to face the dangers of a deep, treacherous forest. Sadly, she was bitten by a venomous snake. In the middle of all the panic, freezing rain, and excruciating pain, Tu Tien didn't give up. She drew upon every survival skill she could recall, chewing on forest leaves and applying them to the wound, all while praying for a miracle. She prayed to survive, just to see Jack one more time. But in such harsh conditions, was it even possible for her to overcome fate? And what about Jack, the man relentlessly following every lead, overturning every stone in search of the woman he loves? Would he get to her in time? Let's continue this emotional journey and find out. It was nothing short of a miracle. After a night of delirium in the forest, the cold ground, and relentless rain, Tu Tien finally regained consciousness. Faint rays of sunlight filtered through the thick canopy above, casting a soft glow on her pale, worn face. Her eyelids fluttered, her body completely drained of strength. She lay there for a long time, trying to gather her senses. The sounds of the forest, the birds calling, the wind rustling through the leaves, blended into a quiet, solemn melody that marked the fragile return of life. The snakebite on her leg was still red and burning, but no longer swollen. The forest leaves she had chewed and applied had worked. Whether or not they were truly effective, she would never know. But in that moment, caught between life and death, she had no choice but to trust her instincts. "Thank you, God," she whispered, tears quietly falling from her eyes. "Thank you for not leaving me behind." Tu Tien had never been especially religious, but in that moment, with death so close, she found herself praying out of sheer desperation. And now, as she lay there, feeling the earth beneath her and the warmth of the morning sun on her skin, she knew her prayer had been heard. But being alive didn't mean being safe. Surviving one night on the brink of death was just the beginning. She still had a long way to go. Her body remained weak. Every joint ached as though shattered, and dizziness from fatigue took over her mind. Her clothes were soaked through, and her shawl was torn and tattered from dragging through the underbrush. Her arms were streaked with cuts, blood still seeping from the thorns she had stumbled through. It took her nearly 5 minutes just to sit up, every movement a struggle. Her legs were numb, trembling, and her heart beat faintly. But deep inside her, a fire burned. Jack, she thought. His image filled her mind like a bright light in the dark. The man who had once taken her home so many times, with his gentle eyes, his steady voice, and his silent embraces, felt like home. The one who had once promised he would always find her, no matter where she went. But this time, it would be her finding him, no matter how many days she spent alone in the wild, crossing forests, surviving on roots and wild leaves. She couldn't and wouldn't stop. "I must go back. I have to see him again," she whispered, as if swearing an oath. Each step was a victory over fear. Each breath, each heartbeat, a silent hymn of gratitude for being alive. And at the end of that winding, endless path, she believed Jack was waiting for her. She didn't know when she would see him again. She didn't know if he was still searching for her or if he had given up. But as long as she was alive, as long as she could still move, she would not stop. Not for herself, but for love. The road home was still far, far away. After another exhausting night, Tu Tien managed to gather some wild berries just enough to stave off the hunger gnawing at her. Each swallow scraped down her dry throat like sandpaper. But she knew she had no choice but to keep pushing through. She had to survive, to see Jack again. The morning sun had barely risen before dark clouds rolled in, thick and ominous, as if fate itself were casting its shadow over her fragile body. And then the rain came. Not the gentle drizzle of autumn, but a torrential downpour, sudden and violent, deep within the mountains. The rain pelted her skin like needles. The wind tore through the trees, breaking dry branches that fell onto the muddy ground with heavy thuds. Startled, Tu Tien quickly pulled the last remaining bit of plastic sheeting she had over her head. It was fragile and filthy, but somehow it was enough to hold her fragile spirit together. She pushed forward, step by step, through the blinding rain. The mountain path was slick, uneven, and steep. No shelter, no roofs, no human presence. Just the cold, indifferent forest and the deafening roar of the storm. Her clothes were drenched, clinging to her skin. Her hair hung limp, drenched in rain, and her body was already weakened from the snakebite and sleepless nights. Tu Tien's body trembled violently. Every step felt like stepping into nothingness. Every breath came shallow, ragged. Her chest tightened as though invisible hands were squeezing the air from her lungs. Cold, numb, aching. But she did not stop. She had no other choice. She lifted her face to the sky, eyes closed, standing in the downpour, rain mixed with tears. She no longer knew if she was crying or if the freezing water in her eyes made it feel like tears. "Dear God, please give me a little more strength," she prayed softly. She wasn't asking for much, just enough strength to keep walking, just enough breath to keep her heart beating, just enough clarity to keep her memories of Jack alive. She believed he was still searching for her. Even though she had no idea where he was, she believed he was out there somewhere. Meanwhile, Jack had received the news from Officer Lee that Tu Tien had been spotted near the forested mountains, and he felt a sudden rush of light pierce through the suffocating darkness of despair. For the first time in what felt like forever, Jack felt hope. He didn't know where she was, or how far away she might be, but she was still out there, still alive. She was still fighting. Before Jack set out to follow this new lead, he stopped by his mother's bedside. She had silently carried the weight of worry for him, and Jack could see the toll it had taken on her. He sat beside her hospital bed, gently taking her frail hand in his. "I've found a lead on Tu Tien. She's alive, and I'm going to find her," Jack said softly, a smile breaking through the exhaustion. His mother's eyes widened in disbelief, and tears spilled down her cheeks. All the sleepless nights, the quiet prayers, now finally gave way to a flicker of hope. "Thank God," she whispered, her voice shaky. "You must find her, Jack. That girl has a good heart. Don't you dare give up on her." Jack nodded, his heart feeling lighter than it had in weeks. Watching his mother slowly recover, he knew he could leave with a steadier heart, more focused than ever on finding Tu Tien. But Officer Lee, a man of honor and compassion, couldn't just sit back and do nothing. When he learned that Tu Tien was the same young woman he had once saved from a deadly landslide, memories from the past came flooding back. She was once just a frightened girl, clinging to him in the face of death. And now, she was lost in the forest once more. Determined to help, Officer Lee immediately ordered the creation of high-quality identification posters featuring Tu Tien's image and details. These were distributed everywhere, and Lee began to search the forest himself, knowing that if Tu Tien was still out there, these posters might be their last chance. James, meanwhile, searched tirelessly through every village and along every narrow path. His clothes were soaked from the rain, his shoes caked in mud, but none of that mattered. All that mattered was finding her. Would he make it in time? Would fate finally reunite these two souls? We'll find out together in the next chapter. Stay tuned for more of this emotional journey with Tu Tien and CEO Jack. After hours of wandering through the desolate mountains, Tu Tien's body was nearly drained of all strength. The snakebite, while no longer a direct threat, still left her feverish, her body fighting off the lingering effects. The morning rain had seeped into her very bones, and each step she took felt heavier than the last. Her clothes, once soaked, were now beginning to dry under the faint touch of the sun, but the mud stains clung stubbornly to her tattered fabric, adding to her already fragile appearance. Tu Tien knew that if she kept wandering in this condition, she wouldn't survive much longer. She needed shelter. She needed to rest, regain just a little strength, and survive long enough to continue her search for Jack. Her hope still burned brightly, no matter how small the flame seemed. Ahead, she spotted a narrow dirt path leading toward a small mountain village. She had no other choice but to follow it. Every step felt as though it was costing her the last bit of energy she had left. When she finally reached a cluster of humble houses, she felt a small flicker of hope, a brief chance at survival. She approached one of the old wooden doors, knocking gently. She forced a faint smile onto her sunken face and bowed her head slightly, speaking softly. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm willing to clean, help with chores, anything. I just need a little food, a place to sit for a while. I'm looking for someone I love." But the response she received wasn't what she hoped for. The villagers gave her cautious glances, scanning her from head to toe, from her crumpled, dirt-streaked clothes to her pale, sunken face. One of them finally spoke, a weary voice offering no help. "We don't have any work here, dear. Times are hard for everyone. You understand, right? No extra hands needed. I'm sorry, child." No one was harsh with her, but no one offered any help either. A quiet sadness settled in Tu Tien's chest as she smiled and thanked each person gently, turning away without any resentment. She understood. Not everyone could open their doors to a stranger, especially one who looked like she had crawled through disaster itself. As she walked away, the fading afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dirt path. She didn't stop. Her legs ached, her body trembled, but she kept moving. The road back to Jack still stretched ahead of her, long and uncertain, but she refused to give up. Despite the rejections, the hunger, and the loneliness, the love she carried in her heart kept her going. It was a quiet flame that refused to die, and as long as she could breathe and walk, she knew there was still hope. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Tu Tien lifted her gaze to the sky now painted in hues of deep violet. "As long as you're still looking for me, I won't give up," she whispered to herself. Meanwhile, Jack's search continued with no rest. After hearing the news that Tu Tien had been spotted near the forested mountains, Jack felt a sudden rush of light pierce through the suffocating darkness of despair. For the first time in what felt like forever, Jack felt hope. He didn't know where she was or how far away she might be, but she was still out there, still alive. She was still fighting. Before Jack set out to follow this new lead, he stopped by his mother's bedside. She had silently carried the weight of worry for him, and Jack could see the toll it had taken on her. He sat beside her hospital bed, gently taking her frail hand in his. "I found a lead on Tu Tien. She's alive, and I'm going to find her," Jack said softly, a smile breaking through the exhaustion. His mother's eyes widened in disbelief, and tears spilled down her cheeks. All the sleepless nights, the quiet prayers, now finally gave way to a flicker of hope. "Thank God," she whispered, her voice shaky. "You must find her, Jack. That girl has a good heart. Don't you dare give up on her." Jack nodded, his heart feeling lighter than it had in weeks. Watching his mother slowly recover, he knew he could leave with a steadier heart, more focused than ever on finding Tu Tien. Determined to help, Jack immediately began his search, retracing every step Tu Tien could have taken. He traveled through every village and along every narrow path. His clothes were soaked from the rain, his shoes heavy with mud, but none of that mattered. All that consumed him was finding her. His heart and soul were tethered to one truth. He couldn't and wouldn't stop until he had her back in his arms. One evening, as Jack stopped to rest, he found a crushed bush with faint muddy footprints nearby. His heart raced as he knelt down, trembling fingers tracing the mark. If only he had arrived earlier, perhaps they would have crossed paths. But the timing was off. They had missed each other by mere hours. Jack felt the cruel sting of fate. That evening, Jack returned to the meeting point, quietly reflecting on the events that had unfolded. He was alone now, sitting in silence as he clutched the photograph of Tu Tien. His hands were numb, his eyes bloodshot, but there was still a glimmer of hope deep inside. "She was so close," he whispered.